Good morning, Freddie. Are you wanting breakfast? Yeah, just doing it now. But I wanted to talk this morning about Audible. Well, about talking books generally. So I've not been someone that's rushed to get involved with talking books or download Audible because I'm a book reader, and I think I'm probably not alone in that. I think I can hear him whinging. I think many book readers think, well, what do I need to read books for? I don't need someone to read to me. In fact, I would argue that I prefer to read to myself at my own pace, because it's what I've been doing for years. Anyway, I've mentioned this before in another video, but I was reading, I was watching a booktube video from Wild Reads, Dave at Wild Reads, where he was talking about whether Audible or whether listening to a book counts as reading. I'm not bothered about that particularly. I think if you're listening to a book, that does count as reading. But it got me thinking, maybe I should give, and I've seen other people talk about Audible, maybe I should give Audible a go. I've never actually given it a go. And I'm sure it didn't have to have been Audible, but they were offering a free trial for a month. So I thought, well, I might as well start with them for a free trial. But apparently I've heard that you can also borrow ebooks through the library. So I'm going to look at that next, because it's quite expensive, Audible. So I'm just going to finish reading the pets, and then I'm going to come back and talk. I have a very old dog called Archie. I think you probably know about him. And so I find it better if I feed him twice a day, because I think he gets a bit of indigestion otherwise. He's coming up 14 now, and every day we talk about, oh, we don't know how much longer he's going to go on for. And in fact, we didn't even think he would make our holiday this summer, but he's keeping going. And he still, most days, wants to go out for a walk. Not every single day. If it's raining, often the dog walker, because I go to work, often the dog walker tells me he's declined the walk, but generally he wants to keep going. The only problem we have with him, and if anyone could help me with this, I'd be much appreciated. Every evening he yelps. Take him to the vet if you don't think there's any particular pain, but it's like a sharp bark. It happens every evening. It can happen for hours on end. The vet thinks it's dementia, but we're not convinced. We think it's something digestive. So if anyone's come across a dog that seems to yelp or bark quite often, with no apparent pain, please do let me know. Speak of the devil, here's the old man. Hello, Archie, do you want your breakfast? We'll just sort your tray out. And because he's older, we put his food up on a ledge, so that he doesn't have to strain as much. There you go. Something else that I bought recently that I'm really liking is one of these things, which is a aromatic diffuser. I bought one with a big reservoir because I like to leave it on all day. But because I've got dogs, particularly an old smelly dog, it can be a bit of a doggy smell when you come into the house. So I tend to find that this diffuser helps. So I've got lots of different oils. Some that I use more at night time. If there's been an unfortunate accident in the night, which is another problem with old dogs, then I might use particularly strong oils. But today we're going to have a bit of orange. I think that'll be nice. A bit of lang lang, because that's quite relaxing. Though my husband says it smells like dogweed, but I quite like it. But he's not in today, so I can have a bit of lang lang. I really love lavender, but I tend to use that in the evening. I'm not going to use lavender now. And I'm really enjoying chamomile as well. And frankincense is nice. I think you've got lang lang orange. I think a little bit of bergamot. The Langland's quite strong. Oh, I think those 3 will do for today. Let's see how they smell. So you just put a few drops into the reservoir, fill it up with water, and then I tend to put the 3 I'm using in the middle so I can replenish them. Pop the lid on, and then I have it set to stay on all day. And then I quite like in the daytime just the one colour rather than lots cycling through all its colours. So I have to go through. Let's go for a pink one this morning. So that's my rubber diffuser, so that will make everything smell nice. I think my cat wants to be sick. Come on. Out the way. Not nice. I'll have to start the video. And the cat wants to puke. So I just wanted to talk about my experiences with listening to Audible books. So, sorry, he just get himself comfortable. So my daughter recommended years ago when she was studying A-level literature that I would really like the novel by George Eliot called Adam Bede. And I've had it on my list or wish list to read for years. I mean, she's 24 now, and we're talking about 6 years ago. And I always seem to find other books that I wanted to read more than Adam Bede. And it's partly because I did do A-level literature many years ago, in the late 1980s, and it really put me off reading some of the classics. I think I read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, and I just remember hating it. Oh, and I read Jamaica Inn as well by Deputy Moray, and I remember really finding the books really difficult to get through. I found the language difficult. I found the long descriptions, the long explanations boring, and it really put me off reading classic literature. But the more I read, and the more I've read since as an adult, the more I realise that a lot of writers refer or make reference to classic novels. It's a bit like in any creative form or creative endeavour, often artists will make a nod to those who've come before them. And so I felt like I was really missing out by not reading some earlier literature, some 19th century literature. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. So when I was watching David Wildrees, and he suggested, well, he was questioning whether listening to an Audible book is the same as reading, it got me thinking, well, if it's easier than reading, then maybe this is my way of educating myself in some of the classics that I can't bring myself to read but want to read. So I downloaded my first free Audible book. Of course I chose Adam Bede by George Eliot. I chose the unabridged version. Thought if I'm going to go for it, I might as well go for it properly. So 20 hours of Adam Bede. I think there's 6 books altogether. And I didn't know who the person was that was reading the book. The name is Anne Massey. I'll have to check that actually. So it was to Georgina Sutton that read Adam Bede. And there she is on the screen there. Really excellent. So enjoyed listening to her. So I would highly recommend other books by Georgina Sutton. Read by Georgina Sutton. But it seemed to have quite good reviews on the Audible site on Amazon. That bit of hair always drives me in. So I downloaded it. Originally I was going to listen to it when I was running, but I found that quite difficult to begin with. Trying to listen to what was going on in the story and maintain my breath whilst I was running. I found it all a bit too much actually. So I decided I would probably listen to it more likely in the car, because I drive to work, a good sort of 40-minute drive each way each day. So I started listening to Adam Bede, not with great hopes, but thinking I'll give it a go. First off, I really enjoyed being read to. I thought Anne Massey did an absolutely brilliant job of maintaining different voices for different characters, but they weren't silly voices, but it tuned me into who was talking. First few chapters of Adam Bede I found as impenetrable as I had done when I had read classics when I was younger. So I remember there was, in the first opening chapter, I think someone sings an old English rhyme, which I would normally skip over if I was reading. I would skip over prayers or songs or anything like that in these books. But obviously I had to listen to it because it was being read to me. And I realised actually there was some benefit in listening to some of these rhymes because they were telling us something about the story and the times. Anyway, so first 3 chapters were hard going as I was introduced to the characters, and there's many characters in Adam Bede, and the opening scene is Adam at work with his brother Seth, and there's a number of other characters that are mentioned within that. It was a real sort of scene setting chapter. And the story itself didn't get going for quite a long time, and I think that's potentially the nature of writing at that time. George Eliot's style was very much describing the environment around, being very descriptive of the characters, talking directly to the reader at times, preempting what the reader's biases might be about characters, and also talking more widely about sort of philosophical points about idleness and work and bravery and cowardice. But I found after a few chapters that I began to really get into the story, and I found that I began to really look forward going in the car, and was looking at my diary to look for times when I'd be in the car for longer, and I was really excited to see that I had a meeting with some friends over in Oxford, which was a good 1.5-hour drive for me. And I was actually really looking forward to the drive because I thought, I can listen to Adam Bede undisturbed for 1.5 hours. So before I knew it, I was flying through Adam Bede. Every time I got in the car, I was putting it on, pretty much ignoring the radio, though I do like listening to Leading Britain's Conversations at times, LBC. And I just found I really got into the novel in a way I don't think I would have got into if I was sitting reading it. I think I'd have been put off by the length of it. I do like a long novel, but 20 hours of a novel is a long time. And when I'm sort of sitting down in the evening at night, I kind of like to read books that I've really been looking forward to. And as I say, Adam Bede wasn't a book I was looking forward to. But I actually found that I was sitting in the car in the driveway, listening to the end of a chapter before I get out, and desperately wanting to carry on listening to Adam Bede for longer. So the story of Adam Bede is really it's a big, far-reaching story about life in the early 1800s in rural Britain. It's about landowners and their tenants. But ultimately, at its heart, it's about a man called Adam Bede who's very noble, very courageous. I kind of fell in love with Adam Bede reading it. And he falls in love with a woman called Hetty. But Hetty doesn't love him back. She's in love with someone that she really ought not to be in love with, which was the gentleman of the estate, the grandson of the squire of the estate. And as you can imagine, things don't necessarily go to plan. I don't want to give too much away about the plot, but Hetty is wronged by this gentleman, and Adam loves her despite this wrong and feels very strongly about what this gentleman has done to him. And alongside that, you've got all these other fantastic characters, the Poysers, Martin Poyser and his wife. You've got Bartle Massey, the school teacher. I can't think of all the names now. Mr. Irwin, the gentleman preacher. And the story really follows what happens between Hetty and the gentleman and Adam. And then there's another character called Dinah Morris, who is a Methodist preacher who decides that she doesn't want to marry anyone. And Adam's brother Seth is in love with her. She's also a cousin to Hetty, the beautiful dairymaid who falls in love with the gentleman. And I just found that I got completely into the story, into the characters. I loved the way that each character was very, very well and fully drawn. George Eliot makes lots of comments about character, about what she wants the reader to get from her descriptions of the characters, and she constantly addresses the reader in terms of, as I said, their own biases about the types of characters that they're reading about. But all in all, it was a really, really enjoyable experience, and I honestly believe that if I'd been sitting reading the book, I would have given up. So 20 hours of Adam Bede went by in a flash, and the novel is really, really vivid in my head. I can hear the characters' voices, I can see them going about their business. I think it's an amazingly difficult thing to read a novel that's going to be listened to by other people, because when you're reading a novel you have to think about the characters' voices that you're using, you have to make sure you understand the flow and structure of the novel, and I have to say I think she did an absolutely brilliant job. But this brings me to asking you guys for some help. What other great classics, based on the fact that I like Adam Bede, do you think I might enjoy listening to? I would love your recommendations down below. And I will come back to you and let you know if Rebecca went as well as Adam Bede. But I am definitely converted to talking books. They're not going to replace reading books myself. They just give me another avenue to immerse myself in literature. And I am pretty much at my happiest when I'm sat down with a book reading or listening to a book. So I would say Audible or talking books generally are a great success. And I would say even for avid readers like me who think they read lots and lots anyway, I think there's always room for a talking book. In those situations where you're stuck, for example, travelling on a train or in a car, or even running. I did find that later on in the novel, because I got so into it, I was able to run and listen to it because I didn't have to concentrate as hard listening to it. So yes, I am a talking book convert. Please let me know any other classics you think that I am missing in my literary education, and I will download them and tell you what I thought. So thanks for listening today, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.